Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is Kathy Cahill of Disability and Access Services. And this is the third in a series of different webinars that we are presenting about various captioning options that you have available to your department. Today we're welcoming TJ DeGrazia of ACS, Automated Captioning Solutions? No. What is it, TJ? What does ACS stand for?
It stands for Alternative Communication Services.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
TJ is one of the MIT preferred providers, ACS is. They provide both captioning services as well as live captioning, which is what you can see at the bottom of your screen if you enable the closed captioning button at the bottom. So thank you so much for being here, TJ, and let's get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a, I don't know how many people we have on here. It's probably a small group. So I definitely want to make this an informal presentation. So at any point you want to stop me and we can take a question, or if you want to hold some questions to the end, we'll make some time there as well. I'm just really glad to be here today. My name is TJ DeGrazia. I am the VP of Sales here at Alternative Communication Services. And as Kathy said, we do provide an array of services from captioning, live, post-production captioning, sign language interpreting, video remote interpreting. And we're going to go over each of those services here today. I want to make sure that you understand what the costs are, what some of the technical aspects are of using the service, some of the policy around the services and how you request services. So we'll go through that today. I wanted to also address here, I'm going to go back to the first slide. If you notice, it says ACS, an AI media company. I'm not sure if any of you folks are familiar with AI Media. They're an Australian-based company that provides captioning very similar to ACS. And we're so very fortunate that they have purchased our company. And we're about 100 days in to the integration of both of our companies here in North America. We're about, I think in North America, we're about 10 times the size of their North American operation. A lot of their revenue is in Australia, London, and through the EMEAs. It's really great to have a great partner like them. And one of the things that it brings us more than anything is a huge investment in technology. And we've always been a service-based company at ACS, but we're really combining that service-driven, customer service-facing awesomeness with this technology giant in AI media. So it's been a really great merger so far, and I have nothing but great things to report. And one of the biggest alignments between our two companies is our culture and the love for the deaf and hard of hearing community and accessibility in general. And that is the number one thing that I can tell you that is so aligned. So I'm very, very excited to have an AI media company standing under ACS because it is such a valued company. So let's dig in here. That's me, of course. Here, it's been a while since I put on a collared shirt, probably like many of you. So I actually do, get out once in a while here, and definitely miss seeing people at conferences and events and so forth. But we'll get back there. So let's dig in. I'm just going to kind of go one service at a time here. And I don't necessarily have to read kind of everything on this screen. I know you guys are more than capable of reading here. And we'll make this PowerPoint available, of course, after the fact. But um, the term CART or captioning, you'll see that come up quite often. CART stands for Communication Access Real-Time Translation. Not my favorite acronym in the world. Usually we just kind of go by captioning. And the captioning that we're experiencing here today by Steve Clark, our captioner, is CART. So Steve is capturing everything that we're saying, and you'll see it come on the screen with about a 2 to 3 second delay. Most of our writers have anywhere from 10, 15, 25, 30 years of experience. They use a steno machine to produce text. Like I said, with about a 2 to 3 second delay at a 98% accuracy level or better. You can see that the cost there at $77 per hour. Services are billed in a 1 hour minimum, and then we bill in 15-minute increments after that first hour. So I don't have my calculator out, but it would be 77 divided by 15 would be that incremental rate.
Freeze up.
Hey TJ, if this is Steve, if you can hear us, your video is frozen.
Hang on, folks. TJ might have to reconnect to the Zoom meeting.
Oh, and I'm back.
And you're back.
Okay, well, nothing like technology here. I've just yelled at my oldest son that if he's playing video games here, that's probably not a very good idea to do that while Dad presents. But I apologize for that. So I'm going to back up just a second. Kathy, did everyone hear me talk about transcripts? I apologize.
We got kind of as far as 1 hour minimum, 15-minute billing increments.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so and if something does break up, I apologize. That should be hopefully the last time that happens to us. Okay, so let's go back. As far as a normal connection time, that is about 5 to 7 minutes before kind of your normal event. So, you know, if a student has a semester class, that's kind of when we connect. But for higher profile classes, you know, we will want to, or I'd say higher profile events, we'll want to connect maybe 15 minutes early, get set up, and then we can kind of take it from there. All of our services do include a transcript, comes in a roughly edited Word document, and we do email that usually by the end of the same day, but we give our captioners about 24 hours to submit that transcript to you. We'll do a quick spell check, but we'll get that off to you right away. The only policy that is really one that I like to let folks know about, as far as like terms and conditions or anything kind of important, really that cancellation policy is the one you want to monitor. So as long as we're getting 24 hours business notice, you're never going to be charged for you know, any services that you booked in advance. So we understand things change quickly. But you know, we're always happy to schedule things in advance, and if you need to cancel them, that's not a problem at all. Okay. All right. So cart services someday will be available again on site. We do love providing services on site, and there might be times when, you know, having a captioner on site might make sense. Sometimes we'll do it for like a convocation or a graduation ceremony. Maybe you're having like a big conference at MIT. It might be worthwhile to bring someone on site as to having them remotely. So here's some of the breakdown pieces of what captioning on site looks. Typically, we're taking like an HDMI feed from like their laptop, and then like putting it on a big screen for multiple people to view simultaneously. So it's a little bit about on-site captioning. There is a 2 hour minimum. With that, we typically will come on site about 30, 45 minutes before, a scheduled start time. So a little bit different there, but hopefully someday we'll get back to being on site. Let me stop there. Any questions anyone has at this point? We'll keep moving. All right, silence is good. I'll take that and we'll keep moving on here. Another service that we provide is called remote text interpreting. As opposed to Steve's captioning here today, that is verbatim, and we call that CART captioning. We have another service that is also provided by human. It's human-based, but it's a meaning for meaning captioning service. So we're actually going to condense down the words, still keeping complete sentences, but we're going to take out some of those false starts and some of that extraneous words in there that really don't apply to the conversation. The folks are trained to listen, make these decisions. There are certain highly technical words, acronyms, content that you can't remove from a sentence. But even as I speak to here to all of you folks today, I use way too many words to get my point across. And these folks are really specially trained to condense that material down for the student. So a couple different reasons why we might choose one service than the other. For CART, you might have a student that has like a cochlear implant or hearing aids that might be using CART to verify what they think they're hearing. So that's one use case for CART. And a use case for meaning might be an ASL student that uses sign language as their first language and prefers a more condensed captioning for their classes. It's going to be less content for them to read and a little bit more of how their mind kind of thinks about words and communication. So more in that condensed version like sign language. Both services are very similar as far as how they're delivered, the minimums, how we connect, the transcript, cancellation policy, all is the same. The only thing that are different between CART and text interpreting are simply the words on the screen. One is verbatim, one is meaning for meaning. ASL Interpreting is available, again, both on-site and remotely. Here are some of the specs of on-site interpreting. Typically with on-site, you're going to have 2 interpreters for any program longer than an hour. If you do have an hour program, you'd only need 1 interpreter, but you're still paying for a 2-hour minimum. And with interpreting, sometimes there can be travel costs and parking and all these other pieces that interpreters want. So along with a 48-hour cancellation policy and so forth. So lately, with COVID, we've really seen a big shift to the video remote interpreting world, which has a 1-hour minimum, and it's $85 per hour. It's really a set cost. It doesn't matter if it's morning or night or the weekend. There's no travel involved. So it really does minimize costs quite a bit. Video remote interpreting does. You can have captioning and interpreting on one program. It doesn't have to be necessarily one or the other. As a guideline, or we'll talk about best practices, but a best practice here, I would say captioning is probably your universal accessibility solution. And then we see interpreting. You can provide both, but we see interpreting it more as a kind of on request basis, that someone ASL prefers that as their mode of communication. So a lot of benefits here with the 1-hour minimum and billing in 15-minute increments. If your event's an hour, only need 1 interpreter. Past an hour, then 2 interpreters need to be scheduled for the whole entire time. So it does double the cost of it, but that is very common. And you'll see that as a standard across the industry for interpreters to switch off every 15 minutes. Okay, so we kind of talked about live captioning, we talked about sign language, and now we're going to go to post-production captioning or anything that has recorded content. So if you have YouTube videos, if you have any video clips that that you're going to show in class, we can make those accessible for you. It's a very simple process. We provide you a log on to our platform. You're able to log in, upload your video, and then you're able to get back an SRT, a web VTT, and an open caption video. All right, so what the heck is an SRT and a web VTT file? Simply, they are time-coded captioning files that work with specific players. For example, if you want to upload a file to YouTube and you want it captioned, or you want to use the closed captioning feature within that player, you would need an SRT captioning file to upload to that video player. Now, some video players don't have a closed captioning feature, or some players don't allow for a closed captioning file to be uploaded. And that's where a open caption video might come in handy for you guys. You press play, captions appear below the video frame. They're always there, they're burned in, very simple, no uploading, no technology involved. I'm sorry, I'm like talking with my hands here. I'm Italian, I can't help it. Even at home, and not presenting at a podium, we can kind of help you and work through kind of what your requirements are. We'll ask you the right questions, and really for any of these services, we don't expect you today to get off this call and be the expert. We just want you to know what's available, and our job at ACS is to help you figure out kind of how we're going to implement into your particular program or event there at the college. Okay, so this is a really fun part for me, because this is what gets me all juiced up. Is kind of you're going to come to me and go, TJ, I have a Zoom call. How do I integrate captions, or Adobe or WebEx or one of these other ones here that I have listed on the screen? And what I can tell you about these particular platforms is, the good news is captions actually integrate directly into the platform themselves, meaning that the platform provider has planned for captioning and allows us to stream directly into the platform itself, which is really nice. It makes for a really succinct type of experience for the user. The captioning's available like it is in Zoom, kind of right there in the platform. They don't have to go anywhere external to the webinar or online event. So these are great ones to focus on, within the college. If you have any of these resources available to you that have really good accessibility features from a captioning perspective. From an interpreting perspective, really the key to interpreting, especially from a remote perspective, is just making sure that the platform has a video feature, which is pretty simplistic. Most of the platforms do have a way to get a video or get an external video feed to a remote interpreter. So a little bit less technology may be involved from a sign language perspective, but we can definitely help you through any of those questions. So if you have a platform and they don't have this great accessibility feature, what are you going to do? Because there's all these other types of platforms. I think I have 6 listed here. There's probably 600, different video platforms or webinar platforms. There's just tons and tons and tons out there. So, when you have platforms that don't have those features, we might figure out, some different integration solutions. Maybe it's a URL to an external captioning window. I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment, because our captioner, Steve, is captioning directly to the Zoom platform and also to an external URL. So we'll show you what that looks like. There's also ways, and I know you don't have to be technical here, but we all have the people we go to help us with the technical part of, whether you're doing a live stream or something like that. There's ways to overlay captions directly onto the video. There's also ways to embed captions into the video. And there's also ways to iframe a caption player like below a video embedded into a web page. So there's options. And I was telling Kathy before we started here, the number one takeaway that I just want all of you to know here today is no matter where you want captioning or interpreting, we can find a solution to integrate it into your program. There's never a way to not provide accessibility. Our job is to help you find the most simple and easy way that works for your platform, for your program. We don't want you to have to work around our solutions. We're going to bring you the solution to make it easy and simple because the world that we're living in right now, simple and easy, are two things we don't get enough of. And that's kind of been my motto here as I've spoke with universities this summer. All right, so we've kind of talked services, we've talked technical a little bit. So how the heck do you get services from us? It can be as simple as emailing operations@acscaptions.com. You know, within the university, and we can chat a bit with Kathy on this, but I believe it's sort of a you know, there's a way where we can kind of feed you guys different invoices, you know, email different departments. Here we can set up kind of individual accounts at ACS so that your invoice goes to the right person. And of course, there's a contract for ACS as a vendor. So that's really should simplify kind of things in your world a bit. And what's really nice is our services team is super friendly, super responsive. And once you have a request, they'll help guide you and they'll say, hey, you know, hey, Kathy, you know, I really need that Zoom link. I need the speaker names. I need the PowerPoint. I need acronyms. And they're going to guide you through all those requirements. We are asking for like a 3 to 5 business day request. If possible, if things come in last minute, let us know. We're glad to accommodate those. But with such a rise in requests for captioning, we're all trying to be really good stewards of being, or I should say of planning as much as we can as possible. And I was telling Kathy earlier, we've doubled our operations staff. We've added more captioners. We're training more captioners. But with the influx of online events, it's definitely been a strain on the industry in general, not just ACS. So planning ahead is always best if you can. Emailing is great. If you always want to email, you can do that. We do have an online portal available, and I'm gonna flip off my PowerPoint here and share my screen to another section here where I can just give you like a quick overview of what that might look like. And I think I'm doing it right now. Are you seeing, and Kathy, you can just give me a thumbs up or yes, you guys are seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So all you need to do is really kind of go to My Sam Online, and there'll be 2 options here to log in. And you'll want to go to the View Client Login screen. And I have Kathy's, and someone will set up an email and password for you. You'll get that in advance. But I put Kathy's information in here for our demo. And we have kind of 2 different types of accounts, whether you're a manager and you kind of have full permissions to do scheduling, or whether you're just an individual and you're just kind of viewing what your schedule is. So some different permissions there. But if we sign in, it is really as simple as seeing, we can see here the demo today. The Lunch and Learn that we're doing right now is in Kathy's schedule. So it's really nice to be able to look either you know what's happening this week or looking ahead. Oh my gosh, did I schedule captioning? You can just log in here. You don't have to email anybody, and you know that your captions are scheduled. So if you want to request an event. Just click create an event. And there's a really nice guide here. Kind of scroll through here quickly of kind of how to use the scheduling and kind of the requirements. You can see we have Kathy's information loaded in here already. So really simple to use. Here's Kathy's profile. If there's anything she needs to update, let's say she changed her number, her email address, everything can be changed kind of within the system. So super nice, easy, convenient, and you'll get responses from our operations team when using the online portal as well. All right.
This is great. So much better than doing it via email.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. It's just super simple, saves a ton of time for everybody in the process.
TJ, is there a place on that form where you can upload a file that has information specific to the talk or the subject matter?
Yeah, right here where it says job files or prep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
That's great. So if somebody had, you know, a topic with lots of technical information or speaker names, they could put them all in there.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right. That was really, no, you know what? I do have a little bit more to share here with some billing options. I need to figure out how to stop sharing that, and we'll go back to my PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so kind of back to the PowerPoint here. As far as billing goes, and Kathy, you can jump in here a little bit. You know, this is typically how we accept payments. So, you know, credit card, check, ACH payment, purchase order. I'm not sure of the internal process at MIT.
A lot of departments have purchasing cards, credit cards, and chances are they might just have their P card on file with you or something like that.
Perfect. Sounds very common.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So just want to let you know there's a lot of flexibility with payments and stuff. We're more concerned about scheduling the service most times than we are about getting paid. I mean, we got to get paid, but we're more focused on the front end stuff. We will email you an invoice the week following your events. Everything's pay as you go, so you know you don't have to buy a certain amount of minutes or hours or anything in advance. And then we have our accounting staff kind of at your disposal that you can respond to if there are questions about invoices as well. As far as best practices goes, we talked about lead time, you know, as much as possible kind of in this COVID world is really helpful. Kathy touched on those prep materials. We saw that in the online form. Big events, you know, test. Let's make sure everything works ahead of time so everything works flawless with your live event. We talked a little bit about request times. You know, audio is really the thing that drives our service. Clear audio is really the basis, right? Whether it's captioning or interpreting. In the online world we're living now with like Zoom, it's really making our job simple. We provide a lot of service remotely where there's an on-site event. Like let's say you're in a lecture hall or an auditorium and you want to use remote captioning. We can help you to figure out how to get us an audio feed from in that environment to our remote captioner or interpreter. So that's kind of our expertise in helping guide you on that stuff. You know, along with testing, training, you know, is really key. I'll always say if there's an employee or someone that's hesitant in using our service, let me know. We'll give them an hour of service at no cost. Let them experience it. If it doesn't work for them, that's cool. If it does, you know, then at least that they've had the ability to try it, you know, in a very non-pressure environment. That's it for me, guys. I'm glad to take any questions. I did not share that URL with you, but I will do that right now.
TJ, there was a question about whether you can pay via the online portal.
There is not a payment feature at
Okay.
this moment in time. So
Okay.
will there be down the road? It's definitely possible.
Mhm.
And if, and those are things those are questions that, we love to hear, right? We love to hear, those things. That's a great suggestion.
Mhm. Okay.
Any other questions here from folks while I get this external link? I just want to give you a quick peek at what that looks
Yeah.
like.
Looks like Eric has a question. If we record the event on Zoom, would the recording maintain the captioning, or would we need to request closed captioning post-production in addition?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And the answer to that is, as long as you are recording the captions to the cloud and not to your local computer, then that will work just fine.
Okay.
Um, the captions will appear a bit different than they are here within the Zoom platform. Excuse me. They will actually come in as 3 lines of text at a time in the replay, as opposed to the streaming text. So a little bit different. Here's the URL, guys. If you guys want to click on that at any point, it's basically going to give you a full screen of text. It's the same latency as in Zoom, so everything is the same here from a word perspective. Just a different format to view it in. There might be there's some more setting adjustments here within this platform, the external. And one of the big reasons why we use the external platform in this online world, specifically as it relates to professors and instructors, and some of you might be those people. And this is nothing negative, but the reality is you're busy when you log on when you log on to your online class. You're talking to students, getting things ready, and one thing that makes Zoom captioning work is making sure that you add the captioner, like you give them those privileges in Zoom. So when that doesn't happen, the student doesn't have accessibility. So what we've been recommending in a student semester class situation, to use the external link, because it just takes the pressure off the instructor, and it creates that consistency for the student and takes any variables out. That's always our job, is the more we eliminate variables, the smoother the service goes. So
Great. I love the fact that in the stream text URL, you can change the way the captions appear, or the colors, or the size, and things like that.
yeah, lots more user features. I can tell you that Zoom, and I don't know when the update's going to come, Zoom is going to put some more of those features in there. I met with their designers probably about 6 weeks ago. I know the caption bot itself will be sort of movable. It won't be stationary. So there's some things coming from Zoom, but I think they're just trying to keep that darn platform online. I know there was a small hiccup on Monday morning, and I thought the world was going to end. So without Zoom, but yeah. Again, glad to answer any questions.
I was
Yeah.
just curious about the turnaround time if you request post-production captioning.
Oh yeah, I didn't put that in there, did I? It's about 3 business days.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you just have like a straight transcription, maybe an audio file, we usually get those done in about 2 business days.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a rush option as well.
Mhm.
I think it increases the rate by like 50 cents. So, if you have like, 25 hours of rush captioning, probably not going to get that done, for you in a day. Rush is, really for, probably files that are under, an hour, stuff like that. So
Okay.
a true emergency.
Great. Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions, folks?
Yeah, and if there are not questions, I just maybe could speak to just a little bit, and I did include this in my presentation, just the limitations of ASR versus our product. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I'll tell you first off, I think ASR is great because it creates more accessibility for more people. But I think that it's far off from being what we would consider a reasonable accommodation, especially in a school environment. Um, ASR needs perfect audio. So if you guys have taught on a class and you have multiple students speaking over each other, it can get, ASR is going to really struggle with that. Sometimes it needs to be fed technical content. It won't understand, personal names, things like that. Using speaker IDs, as you can see here with Kathy and myself dialoguing, super helpful for the deaf and hard of hearing student to have that, whether it's live or from the transcript perspective. ASR will not be able to do that at this point. So, beyond that, I would say that sometimes there can be a delay issue as well. There's always a consistent delay here. The text is always scrolling smoothly. Steve's our captioner, but also super tech savvy. Steve, I can have you stop for a second. Steve's a real person. Steve, if you want to put on your video, I always like to show Steve because it's like the
Hey,
man.
everyone.
He's like the man behind the curtain. But Steve, is there any other ASR limitations that you can think of that you've experienced that I didn't mention?
Yeah, as TJ said, the ASR, it is improving and it does really well at capturing every word. But sometimes you don't want every word to be captioned because it could be someone who tends to stammer or has even a speech impediment, and it is going to pick up every one of those words. But it also will get, let's say someone says, as I think about this, all of those I's are going to be in there, and it just kind of throws off the thought process for the person reading the captions. It also doesn't get punctuation very well. It will get most periods if there is a sizable pause. It doesn't do well with the other punctuation, and it doesn't put in parentheticals. If you've been watching as I've been captioning here, I've added laughter when that has occurred because that helps the person who's reading the captions to get the full breadth of what is happening. So those are really the big things that you're not going to get. The speaker IDs can be done as well as it's programmed ahead of time. If TJ is wearing a microphone and that is set up in the ASR system and assigned to him, and the same thing with Kathy and every other speaker. But if somebody were to come on now, if Eric were to speak and I see his name pop up, I would still be able to get in a speaker ID for him on the fly.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate you jumping in, kind of stepping on a roll there for us. I mean, ASR, I think it has its place. Kathy and I were talking briefly as we got started here today. Conversational talk is great. Non-technical, really controlled environments, might be the place to try to utilize that and test that out. But, for big events, public-facing events, internal events, conference calls, important meetings, definitely using a human-based captioning is going to be your go-to solution.
Yeah, and I think given that so many presentations and meetings here on campus include lots of technical terms and scientific and engineering math terms, it seems like it's really important to get it right. And even though automatic speech recognition can do a decent job, because we've been looking at some results in Canvas and Panopto, there's a lot of things it gets wrong. And you just don't want students or anyone trying to learn something based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's a number that I always like to throw out. So in a half an hour newscast, there's approximately 3,500 words that are spoken. So if we're running at a 98% accuracy level, or let's say 99, that's 35 errors within that broadcast in 30 minutes. So now 98%, that's 70 errors. Now double that on an hour lecture, that's 140 errors. and that's 98% accurate. So when someone comes to you and says, oh, our ASR is 90% accurate, now start adding up, the level of errors just gets, it's significant. We're going now to 350 errors, right, for that 30-minute broadcast. It just exponentially, just gets so much, so much higher. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. When we say 98% accuracy, we have tested that. Our folks test that at that level. We have not only we not only have these NCR, which is the National Court Reporters Association certification levels for our folks, but we also have internal evaluations. So when Jane Smith comes and wants to work for ACS, we're not just going to throw her on a class. She has to meet our requirements as a company, and our style guides and all the things that creates consistency. If you want to talk about like a McDonald's cheeseburger, I don't know if we're all a little hungry, it's around lunchtime, whether you get that in New York City or whether you get that in San Francisco is going to be the same. And that's really what we're shooting for from a quality perspective and from a user experience perspective. No matter who comes on for any event, you're always going to see the same sort of style and accuracy level.
Okay, any other questions, folks?
Yeah, if not, we'll give you back 17 minutes of your life.
All right. Well, TJ and Steve, thank you both so much for being here, for explaining what ACS can offer. And if you want to send me the PowerPoint, I'd be happy to post it along with the video, because we're recording this for people who can't attend live. And we'll have that available for people at MIT to go through.
Great. And let me just thank you all for your time, and Kathy for inviting me to speak here. And I'll just encourage you all, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information, it should be in that last slide. If not, Kathy has it. If you do have questions that you don't want to ask right now, or they come up once you have an event, please reach out to me. I'd be glad to assist you. It's the most, like I said before, the most fun thing I can do is figure out how to get captioning or interpreting into your program.
Great.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.